All right, it's really an honor to be here and share the composition process of my piece, Haya, for solo clarinet and electronics to all of you. This piece was recently selected to be one of the program on the Electronic Music Midwest Festival in Chicago. And it's also invited to perform in the National Concert Hall in Taiwan next summer. So, as a musician, well, more specifically, a classical musician, I started to play piano at the age of 3 and clarinet at the age of 10. Ever since then, all the pieces I've learned were composed by musicians such as Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, Schubert, Schumann, Mozart. And most of these pieces were written in between Baroque to Romantic periods. In other words, I rarely touch any piece that was composed after the late 20th century. But when I was in college, I played a piece called X Concerto by American composer Scott McAllister. And this piece is written for solo clarinet and orchestra. What's so special about this piece is that there are 3 movements in particular in the slow second movement. The composer blended a song by Nirvana called Where Did You Sleep Last Night into the melody. And many of you are probably familiar with the song. And this is very interesting that, composer blends something in their own generation, which is, not very familiar thing that for our classical musician. And ever since then, I started to think that, is there any piece that I can play that at least has certain connection to my own generation? And surprisingly, the truth is that there are really few pieces out there in this specific genre. So I've always kept this thought in mind until I met my composition professor, Dr. David Taddie. And he's the one who really encouraged me and helped me to put all the ideas together. And probably just like many of you or many young people in my age, I personally enjoy listening to electropop, electro house, any kind of EDM music in my spare time. Then I realized that that's the kind of material that I'm always looking for. It's the kind of music that represents our own generation because it's closely related to our daily life. By that I mean, whenever you go to a store buying a sandwich, or whenever you're driving, turning on the radio, that's the kind of music that you're always listening to, in any time and anywhere. So I decided to use that as short fragments in the background music, which only appear in the beginning and the ending section. And this is kind of avoiding the whole piece sounding too much like a clubbing music. And in the jazzy theme you heard from the clarinet part, it actually comes from a piece called Moonflower's Baby by American composer Meyer Kupferman. This piece is also written for solo clarinet and is composed in the late 20th century. And the composer blended a lot of jazz and blues elements into it. In the middle section, you heard very catchy beat in the bass line, which sounds like dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum. This kind of rhythmic pattern is derived from Mongolian shaman drum. In Mongolian culture, they believe that by playing the drum, the shaman can communicate with their god. And this is responding to the last section in my piece, which is very slow, quiet, spiritual, self-retrospective, like meditation and contemplation. And by combining this kind of 3 materials in my music, the jazzy theme in the clarinet part, the Mongolian shaman drum in the bass line, and the EDM material in the background, this piece doesn't sound that distant to us. Instead, when people in my age or in my generation listen to this song, they build certain kind of connection to it, which is so much more familiar and closer when compared to listening to pure classical music. And by combining this kind of electronic sounds and effects into a performance, a classical musician like me is no longer restricted to a narrow genre of classical music. Thank you.